In an exclusive interaction with NDTV's Sanjay Pugalia, Prime Minister Narendra Modi spoke about jobs, governance, infrastructure. He also said once general election results are out on the 4th of June, within that week, India's stock markets will break all records and stock market programmers will get tired of action.
एक सवाल मैं बाजार के सटोरियों की तरफ से बिल्कुल नहीं पूछना चाहता हूं सर आपसे, लेकिन वो ये है कि आजकल नए युवा भी इन्वेस्टमेंट में बहुत आ रहे हैं और मेरी अपनी राय ये है कि इस बार बाजार ने इलेक्शन का आउटकम पहले ही समझ करके बहुत तेजी से ऊपर का रुख कर लिया था। अभी थोड़ी बाजार में नर्वसनेस है कि मैंडेट कैसा आएगा, तो उस पर आप कुछ कमेंट करना चाहेंगे?
देखिए, मैं वो कहूँगा तो इन्फ्लुएंस करने की कोशिश करूँगा, ऐसा कोई अर्थ मानेगा। ऐसा है कि हमारी सरकार ने मैक्सिमम इकोनॉमिक रिफॉर्म्स किए हैं और प्रो एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप पॉलिसीज हमारी इकोनॉमी को बहुत बड़ा बल देती है और स्वाभाविक है, हर कोई आएगा। हम 25,000 से यात्रा शुरू की थी, 75,000 पहुंचे हैं। ये अपने आप में दुनिया में हमारी इज्जत का प्रतिष्ठा भी बढ़ती है। दूसरा, जितने ज्यादा सामान्य नागरिक इस फील्ड में आते हैं, इतनी इकोनॉमी को बहुत बड़ा बल मिलता है जी, बहुत बड़ा मिलता है। और मैं तो चाहता हूँ हर नागरिक के मन में थोड़ी रिस्क टेकिंग कैपेसिटी बढ़नी चाहिए।
एब्सोल्युटली,
ये बहुत जरूरी होता है। सोच सोच करके ये क्या करूँगा, ऐसी जिंदगी जीने से बात बनती नहीं है। और 4 जून जैसा आपने कहा, जिस दिन चुनाव का नतीजा आएगा, आप उस हफ्ते भर में देखना कि यानी भारत का स्टॉक मार्केट के लिए उसके सारे जो उनके प्रोग्रामिंग के जो प्रोग्रामिंग वाले सारे उनके थक जाएंगे।
All right, we just heard the Prime Minister mentioning how the stock markets will break all records post the verdict for Lok Sabha polls 2024. Now, to understand how markets historically have reacted to general election results, we have with us market expert and veteran Ambrish Balega. We have Siddharth Bhamre, Head of Research at Asit C. Mehta Investment Intermediates and Senior Economist, as well as founder of Nikor Associates, Mitali Nikor, as well as business economist and managing partner of Talk the Walk, Sanchita Mukherjee. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. To begin with, Ambrish Balega, this is India's moment to shine, as mentioned by the Prime Minister. Your thoughts on the market momentum going forward, and how do you think this will compare to the stock market reaction as after earlier general election results?
No, first of all, I think this is probably the golden decade or possibly decades for India, and we should soon be the third largest economy. And we have the demographics on our side. Again, if it's employed efficiently, and with so many job opportunities which will be created, I think we could be headed for a major consumption boom going ahead. Now, talking of the elections, there are various probabilities. I don't think anyone is really talking of NDA not coming back, although elections being elections, the probability I think can be very, very low for that. But then the markets have discounted to a very large extent that it will be closer to about 400 seats. There, I think the probability could be low. But in case, that sort of a result comes, then like Prime Minister Modi said, I think you'll see a major, major boom in the market immediately once the results are announced. But then if the numbers are closer to about 320, 330, since it is lower than what has been discounted, we could see some sort of a market correction. But then if NDA wins with a very slim majority, then I suppose we could see a much deeper correction. So these are the 3 scenarios which I think can play out post June 4th.
All right, very, very interesting. There are 3 scenarios that you've listed out, really. Siddharth Bhamre, do you agree? What would you say about historical trends as far as markets and elections go, and your expectations this time? Also, for those wondering and what to make of the volatility index spiking in the past few weeks, what would you say?
Good morning, Sakshi, and thank you for having me on this interesting discussion. Well, we have seen that Honorable Prime Minister, he says, and then market reacts to it. So be it, his comment about LIC insurance or PSU stocks, and we have seen how it has happened in recent past. Sakshi, what we have observed and what you can see on your screen also is that market doesn't like uncertainty. Well, I agree with Mr. Baliga that there can be some disappointment in terms of number of seats, but my personal understanding is, and based on data points, that as long as this current government continues to function, irrespective whether they get 320, 350 or 400, market will not, give any negative jitters. And as I mentioned, that market doesn't like uncertainty, but despite election month, we haven't seen any meaningful correction in market. So market is discounting the continuation, and post election and specifically after exit poll, we may see this market moving towards higher levels as PM mentioned. And I don't see any reason why people should be perturbed. We are seeing, if I were, a political analyst hat, though I'm not expert of it, there is hardly any probability of any big challenge coming, at least in this election. So stay invested is what we have been telling to our clients. And if at all there is some correction, it would be an opportunity to buy only.
All right, that's of course the market perspective. But Mithali, to you as an economist, continued policies and reforms really the big boost for India's economy going forward?
Thanks, Sakshi. And I think it's so interesting to understand the market, because we always say the word the market, but at the end of the day, who is this market? And today, India's stock market participants are very different from the stock market participants of 2004 and 2009. Today, the stock market participants are composed of a large proportion of small investors, first-time equity buyers, and also the market now has a sizable foreign participation as opposed to before. So I do think that Indian markets are now much more integrated with foreign cues as well as Indian cues. So therefore, we're not seeing the trends, because if you see the trends, and an SBI report has actually pointed this out very clearly, that in the last 3 or 4 elections, and you see this, trend changing, you start seeing that the spread around elections is much wider. There's a lot of uncertainty in 2004, 2009, 2014. But 2019 and 2024 actually bucked this trend. There's less uncertainty, there's less of a spike. Now, there are 2 major reasons for that. One is we expect the government continuity to be, to remain. And the second is the integration with global markets, where it's not only what's happening in India, but global trends which also influence market behavior.
Right, global trends also influencing market behavior. Sanchita, to you as well as a business economist, the big infrastructure push that the Prime Minister has spoken about, your thoughts on how the general election verdict and what will it mean for India's economy going forward really?
Good morning, Sakshi, and thank you for having me over. Very relevant question. So let me present to you a big picture, adding on to what Mithali just said, that the markets now look very different from what they used to look 10 years back. In fact, the reforms over the last many years have affected sectors very, very differently. Different pockets of the economy, for example, the infrastructure push, the Make in India, the defense sector, the real estate sector. We are talking today of relative valuations as well as the futuristic growth prospects of specialty chemicals, of electronics, manufacturing, all of that. We are talking about rural consumption, inflation data. And like she rightfully said, all of this is not just related to domestic issues we have at hand here. The reforms and the diplomatic ties that India has succeeded in recent years actually affect our economy and likewise the stock market in terms of oil pricing, the relationship we have with the larger developed markets in terms of the rupee, in terms of the businesses that we are doing, the US federal interest rates, the relative strength of China as an economy, right, vis-a-vis the other emerging markets. These are all concerns and issues in the larger context. So whilst each of these variables will affect the market performance in the short term, including the elections, because if the current government is unable to form for whatever reason, then there will definitely be a negative knee-jerk reaction. But I think what a lot of foreign portfolio investors are also looking at, there's a lot of money actually waiting in the sideline to get into the market purely on the basis of the fundamental strength of the Indian economy. What they are clearly looking at is a transformational budget. The fact that the reforms which have happened in the last many years, reforms like UPI, GST, cleaning up of the balance sheet of the banks, these cannot be rolled back, whichever government comes to power in whichever form. The strength of the economy will be substantial to generate a lot of interest on money which is still waiting in the sideline to get in on any meaningful correction.
All right. Well, Ambrish Balekar, do you agree with the economists saying that, look, continued policies, reforms, really, certain pockets being impacted, certain sectors going to be impacted? So for those watching at home, which sectors would you be bullish on post the election verdict?
See, the sectors which have been doing well, for example, defense and railways, I think they will still, continue to be in focus. But then other than that, I would be quite positive on the economy sectors like infra. I think infra, we should see the boom continuing at least for the next 5 years to a decade. And one of the other sectors which hasn't done too well in the recent past, but I expect that to do well going ahead, at least for the next year or two, is specialty chemicals, because China plus one policy, I think that should play out decently well. So specialty chemicals is one space where I would be investing.
Right. Siddharth Bhamre, do you agree? Which are the sectors that you would be bullish on post the election verdict?
Key takeaways from that interview, Sakshi, was one thing which caught my attention, where PM mentioned that a lot of people are dependent on agriculture. And that's the reason that sector is people heavy. And if you want, people dependent on agriculture to flourish, you need to reduce the number of people over there. And how industrial revolution would, reduce pressure on agriculture sector. So I would be seconding the thought which Mr. Balekar said that yes, infrastructure development would be there, but manufacturing, that revolution, I think he mentioned is about to just take off. And that is where, we would, keep our eyes on. This is, I wouldn't get into particular that which sector and what stocks, but I think manufacturing space is something which I would be very bullish on. And he's a visionary. He's not talking from 1 year, 2 years perspective. He's talking from, 5 years, 10 years perspective. So accordingly, investors will also have to see that only because he spoke about industrialization doesn't mean that, stock market is going to go up or capital goods stocks are going to go up in next 1 month. You have to take that kind of vision and accordingly invest.
All right, very important to remember here that there is a long-term vision in mind, like you said. Of course, we have discussed the markets and how stock markets historically really have reacted to a general election verdict. And last question to you, Ambrish Balekar, as per the data we have at the moment, what we have seen is the weekly gains really post the verdict in the last 3 general elections have been upbeat. Final word to you, what do you feel will happen this time?
No, like I said, I gave you those 3 scenarios because the markets have moved up decently well in the past so many months, and in the recent months on the hope that NDA will be getting closer to about 400 seats. In case that does not happen, there could be a bit of a disappointment. And again, let me say that I don't think, the markets are very clear that NDA is coming back, whether it's slim majority, major one, or a super one at 400 plus. So in case it's lower than 400, I suppose there could be some correction, but that would be only temporary. And like Siddharth said, in case there's a correction, I think that's a buying opportunity, because when you're investing in the markets, you're looking at much longer term. You're not looking at a short-term trading. From a longer term perspective, I don't think anything can really go wrong with the India story as long as NDA is back in power.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Of course, we will continue to track how the general election verdict pans out and the stock markets and their reaction on the election verdict day as well as the week after that.